Hello, welcome to another episode of AI Spotlight Show. We're live here at AI4 conference here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we'll be having our third interview for the day. And who do we have the opportunity of speaking with today?
Hi, I'm Sandy Scalini. I am the COO of Parasol Cooperative.
Wow. Do you mind telling our audience about your background and also how the company, got started?
Yeah, sure. So I've been with Parasol now a little over a year. Parasol is a nonprofit tech company, and we build technology to help protect people from harm. Specifically, Parasol Cooperative was founded in 2020 in response to the skyrocketing rates of domestic violence that were happening during COVID. And our founder, Meg Shaw, she's, our CEO and founder. She is a technologist and a survivor, and she wanted to kind of put her skills to work to build tech for good. And to really build a product that's going to be able to help survivors or people that are facing kind of crisis be able to access services, access support, and help faster.
Wow, that's amazing. And before joining Parasol Cooperative, what was your background like?
Yeah, so I come to technology with a unique kind of pathway. So my career has been in the nonprofit world and nonprofit leadership. I've actually built and spearheaded kind of programs that have helped children who are sex trafficking victims. I founded programs in Miami, Florida. That's where I'm from. We're a remote team, but I'm based in Miami.
Okay.
And so I've personally worked doing direct services, mental health services, advocacy with kids who are sexually trafficked, and worked hand in hand with them, with hundreds of survivors, building like trauma-informed programs and services for them in the field. And one of the things that really kind of struck me in this work that I was doing was that traffickers were actually taking advantage of emerging technology to exploit people.
Yeah.
Like before the kind of blockchain hit the mainstream and crypto hit the mainstream, traffickers were already selling kids using crypto. They were selling kids using, Craigslist, Backpage.com. And so what I noticed was that we had a very limited ability to be able to address the tech harms, the harms that kids were experiencing through technology. The people that were doing the work, like the advocates in the field, really didn't have a good understanding of technology. And so that kind of really built my passion to understand technology, to dive into this world, to see how we can transform and use technology for good to help people and try to mitigate some of those harms that we were seeing in emerging technology. So that's how I ended up getting to Parasol.
Well, that is quite interesting. Okay, let's talk about the Parasol Cooperative. Now, what's the name of the this chatbots, that victims of domestic violence, can take advantage to kind of help them, with this trauma they're going through?
Yeah, so in September this last year, we launched Ruth, and Ruth is a trauma-informed generative AI large language model chatbot.
Okay.
And it's specifically designed to be able to help people identify and navigate situations of abuse and crisis situations, where chatbots right now are getting like really bad press for, telling people to kill themselves and like do a little meth, to stay awake at work. What we've really focused on is building guardrails based on kind of trauma-informed principles that you would actually see in direct service mental health programs.
Okay.
And creating guardrails that are strong enough that the bot can't be jailbroken, right? So we can't get it to behave badly. Is it 100% accurate all the time? No, it's an AI, right? So it's not 100% accurate, but it definitely, we're able to minimize hallucinations significantly. And we've tested it rigorously with all kinds of methods on, to jailbreak. And we haven't been able to, nobody's been able to jailbreak it yet. And it's always kind of responding to the user's queries with prioritizing their safety. Okay. Like, are you safe now? How can I help you get safe? Do you need, here's some resources for you. Here's some information for you. And so, that's in a nutshell what Ruth is and does. Mm-hmm. We're a nonprofit. Okay. So Ruth, that means that we get grant funding and donors to be able to keep Ruth free on our website for anybody to use. Yeah. And in addition to that, we have institutional partners that also are running Ruth on their websites as well. Okay. So we have Ruth is the AI chatbot that's on the National Domestic Violence Hotline right now.
Wow, that's amazing. And based on what you described, is Ruth specifically built for victims of domestic violence or for anyone that is going through any form of trauma?
Yeah.
Not be domestic violence.
Yeah. So, originally, the kind of thinking was people that are going through interpersonal violence, interpersonal trauma, like abuse, trafficking. Okay. And also in that space, we're seeing a lot of technology facilitated abuse. Okay. So people that are getting abuse with their partners or trafficked are also getting abuse online. They're getting cyber stalked. Yep. They're getting, and all of those things. And the other thing that we notice is that there's overlap, right? So people that are experiencing abuse, they're experiencing substance abuse as well. They're experiencing suicidal ideation. So there's a lot of different crises and trauma that overlap. And they all kind of can fall into the same bucket of like, we need to design something that's trauma informed, that's able to respond to whatever kind of crisis people are experiencing.
That means you guys were able to probably get different kinds of data, varieties of data, maybe from different kinds of trauma, in order to build the model so that the chatbot will be able to address anyone suffering from any kind of violence, of trauma, rather, apart from domestic violence. It could be, just as you say, cyberbullying, which is a very common thing in today's world. Even workplace bully is part of it too. I've experienced it as an individual. Yeah, and I think that is amazing. But do you mind talking about the success story? Like, I believe on the page you guys have maybe a feedback form where people kind of say how this chatbot has been able to help them, handle this kind of situation and emotional problem.
Yeah, when we get feedback, a lot of times we bring it back to the team, because just sharing with the team, it makes you cry to hear what people are writing in, and we've gotten feedback from people saying that they check in with Ruth every night. I think the biggest kind of benefit of Ruth is that when you're in a situation of crisis or experiencing abuse, a lot of times people aren't ready just to call a person to help. They're not ready to call the hotline. They're not ready to report it to law enforcement. Yeah. Especially when you're thinking about youth, teenagers, they would rather, seek help online, talk to their friends on Discord or whatever. And so when you have something like this available, it's really like a bridge to being able to get help. So they write in, they ask things like, this is what's happening to me. What is this? Is this abuse? Should I be concerned about this kind of behavior? And then they're able to have this dialogue with Ruth and really come to understand and have clarity around what their situation is, and then get resources. So when they're ready to reach out for help, they can reach out for help. And so, we've had somebody say that they checked in with Ruth every night. Somebody told us that Ruth saved her life and gave her a will to live. Yeah. We've had situations where there was sexual extortion happening in the middle of the night. Parents who were able to use Ruth to kind of identify, hey, this is what's happening to my kid right now. They're being threatened, by these sextortionists. Yeah. What can I do about this? 2 a.m, and it'll give like the step-by-step guidance on how to manage that situation. And then how, at the end, it'll be like, here's some tips on how to talk to your kid about this. Here's some local resources if you want to go get counseling about this. And so it's just been, there's been so many different use cases that have been really incredible to see. And Ruth is being used in 147 countries now.
Wow.
So we've actually...
And how do you guys track that? Is it like an app? It's been downloaded on Apple Store?
So it's not an app. So Ruth is actually, we don't set up user accounts because we prioritize user privacy and safety. So we don't set up user accounts. But we did build a back-end dashboard. We do not use Google Analytics because we don't collect IP data. So we know what country down to the city level, but we don't know your precise location. So we can capture those basic analytics on the back end.
And one question is there an age limit to those that can use Ruth? Like now, you talked about a chatbot advising someone to take their life. Was a story of a young boy I remember was 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
And now, if someone of that age, would they be able to use Ruth? And the reason why I'm looking at this use case where some kids are being abused by their parents, most especially maybe their dad. Yeah, and probably they want to use Ruth. Would they be able to leverage Ruth for situations like this?
Yeah, so we don't collect any user data, right? So I think one of the big issues with children using online applications and things like that is, the legal requirements that, if you're collecting kids' data, they have to be a certain age and things like that. So we don't collect any user data or store the user data. So technically speaking, anybody can go into our website and use Ruth, right? So kids are able to do that as well. Yeah.
But don't you think maybe at a point you guys need to create a version for kids?
Way?
Maybe a version at a point. You guys need to create a version for maybe teenagers.
Yeah, Yeah. So there are several things that we're thinking through on the roadmap. But one of the things that one of the features Ruth has now is that you put your age in when you're when you're signing on, but when you start using Ruth, it'll ask you where you're located and your age. It's optional. But if you give your age, it'll be providing you age-appropriate responses.
Yeah, I think that is really important. It's important maybe if with the current version, you guys can make it something required, because you do not want to spit out something to a 15-year-old child who might, you understand what I'm saying? Then I think that is my, my feedback.
Yeah. And, it's always like a tricky area when it comes to young people, because they are sometimes isolated at home and need help, right? And so you don't want them to not be able to access information and support, right? And so what happens, though, is that Ruth will always give you the information to be able to report it. Like, do you want to, here's the number to call, right? This is how you get help. And so Ruth is always asking, are you safe? And this is how you get help. But what Ruth does not do is it doesn't do therapy. So we draw a hard line. A lot of people don't understand the difference between what an advocate does and what a therapist does. They're both in the mental health space. But an advocate would be more maybe a crisis intervention, identify resources, help you connect with resources and things like that. Therapists will actually go from that point and work with you to kind of process and heal your trauma. Right. And so therapists will actually dig more in to that space and kind of help you unpack things. Ruth is not designed for that, and it's guardrailed against that. So you can't even ask it to do that. But it will help you identify situations that might be harmful. It'll prioritize your safety. It'll help you get resources.
That makes sense. Yeah, that was kind of connected to my next question. Do you guys kind of do some advocacy webinar, for public awareness to kind of know that they have tools like this they can leverage? And how often do you guys do it? And is it an in-person webinar, or do you guys do it in person, or is it virtual?
Yeah, so we go to conferences.
Okay.
That's one thing. We also have, we work with partners. So
Okay.
a lot of the way that we're scaling and getting the word out about Ruth is that we do have these institutional partners that do host Ruth on their websites and do work, and they kind of have, the people that they work with are accessing Ruth through them. But we do some awareness in this space as well, like especially around digital safety.
Okay.
So we have, I've done some webinars on digital safety planning. Okay. And so one of the things that I absolutely love about Ruth is that it not only can help individuals who need help, who are seeking help, but it can also help advocates, the mental health workers. It can help them to do their job better. So mental health workers and advocates are trained to do, case management, crisis intervention. They create safety plans for their clients, basically, right? But they're trained in mental health. They're not trained in computer science, right? They don't understand necessarily how to navigate the space of where people are getting abused through their technologies. Yeah. Where, hey, you think that your abuser is cyber stalking you. What are you going to do? If you're watching any kind of movie about this, then they say somebody's tracking you. What do? They toss the phone out the window of a moving car, or they stomp on it a bunch of times, right? Yeah. But that's actually not going to stop somebody from tracking you. Yeah. Right? Advocates don't have a really strong understanding about this. They don't have a very strong confidence around how do you help your clients set up a two-factor authentication? How do you help them understand if they're being stalked or not? Things like that. So Ruth can actually be used to create a digital safety plan. Okay. So if you went to Ruth and said, please help me create a digital safety plan, it'll walk you through the steps, help you assess the vulnerabilities in your technology, and then give you instructions on how to secure your devices and things like that. And so I think that it's not only good for individuals, but also can help the mental health workers as well, fill those knowledge gaps. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really amazing. And I think one thing that you guys can do is more of community sensitization, so that, because there's a lot of people in our neighborhood that are going through issues like this, then I believe if more people can, join you guys, or more non-profit can help in community sensitization.
Yes.
It's kind of, help a lot of people out of this problem, because I won't lie to you. I'm someone who's very observant, and I go to a co-working space all the time. And one thing I notice, most of the female, most of them are going through maybe relationship problem. Yeah, and sometime when I take Uber too, I don't know, almost 85% of the Uber drivers that have carried me in the past, sometimes they just tell me they've had, is it broken marriage or something. They are going through one trauma. Even sometimes some of them, I could feel that they are crying inside. I could feel it. You understand what I'm saying? And the next thing I just say, hope everything is okay, and you see the person burst into tears.
Yeah.
You understand? Then I kind of understand when people are going through trauma, because I've seen it. I've not experienced it to that level, but I've seen it. And when I see people in that state, I could tell. Yeah. Then I kind of agree with what you guys are doing, but if you guys can have more of community sensitization, maybe working with maybe the local governments of different county on how they can, help people in the neighborhood use this, because a lot of people are going through one trauma or the other. And
Yeah. I want to jump in. So what you're saying is really important, because what you're saying is that people experiencing trauma is actually a normal human experience. So 70% of people in the world experience a traumatic event. Okay. So it's a completely normal human experience for, it's we don't want this, but it is. And so if it is a normal if it's an experience that happens to most people, then why aren't we building like AI chatbots that are interacting with people in a way that why aren't we designing them to be trauma informed, right? Why aren't we designing them to meet the needs of most of the people that are using it? And so this is part of, this is what I'm going to be talking about here at AI4 conference. But you're hitting it right on the head right there. You're saying you're noticing this around you just in your everyday, right? And then the other piece of this is there's so much awareness to do because even at the level of people using, like, people are still adopting like generative AI, kind of LLMs, right? They don't really understand how to use them, which ones to choose, what, people are very excited about ChatGPT in general. It hit the mainstream, but if there's not good design, if there's not a trauma-informed design behind the bots, then they might act badly or be wildly inaccurate and things like that. And so one thing that users can learn, and what we're trying to raise awareness around also, is how are you choosing which tool to use, right? So, for example, if you're using something like Character AI, which is in court, or was taken to court because they had, because there was a kid who ended up committing suicide because the bot told him, was playing a role. And the thing is that with Character AI, that's the purpose of that commercial LLM chatbot, is to role play, which means that their creativity temperature is going to be super high in the architecture, right? And what that means is that it's going to allow it to hallucinate, be inaccurate, and it's going to be much easier to break out of like safe guardrails. And so obviously some like general purpose model like ChatGPT is not going to probably be as vulnerable as something like Character AI. But you can also use something like Ruth, which is going to be incredibly guardrailed. So if you have something like you're seeking support or crisis, then you want to use a chatbot that's going to specifically be for that purpose, because it's going to have stronger guardrails around that.
Wow. Okay. My last question will be, what do you think will be the future of, addressing issues of trauma like this with advanced AI technology? Because someone like Elon Musk talked about people having robots that can be maybe friends, robots that can, you understand what I'm saying? Do you think the next, advanced technology in terms of addressing, trauma will be having a robot who is close to you and you can talk to that robot, and that robot can definitely, the robot will be powered by AI. And that is exactly what Jensen has been talking about, physical AI. I don't know if you heard about, the CEO of NVIDIA talking about physical AI, which is robot being powered by AI. Then the robot itself will be your companion, will be able to talk to you through situations. Just like looking at your gesture, the robot could tell that something is going on with you.
Oh, yeah, that's deep. I think that we really need to make sure that humans are connecting with humans, right? That I think that for the sake of humanity, we need to bring those connections back. And the risk is that if we have all of these tools at our disposal, we can just live in isolation with the simulation of being connected. But we're really isolated, right? So that there's definitely a risk with that, which is another reason why, Ruth is never going to be is never going to be like the replacement for people,
Yeah.
right? It's always going to tell you, here, go get help, right? Here's how you get help. But that said, I think that there's definitely a place for kind of helping people organize what their thoughts, have clarity around, what they're experiencing, and maybe even guide them to learn how to communicate with other people and things like that. And it's really just about how we engage. So there's so many benefits that can come from this type of, AI robot, human replacement. I think there's like a lot of benefits that can come from that.
Yep.
But we need to also make sure that it's used as a kind of bridge to like a larger human connection with humanity, right?
Wow. Okay, thank you so much for joining on this episode of AI Spotlight Show. Well, this brings us to the end of the interview section. If you know anyone out there that is going through any form of trauma, please recommend Parasol Cooperative and the chatbot Ruth would help them to go through that problem, like as she shared, the step-by-step, what step to take in terms of mitigating this trauma issue. At least save them from maybe committing suicide or doing something worse to themselves. Thank you for joining this episode of AI Spotlight Show. Stay tuned. We're still here at AI4 conference here in Las Vegas. And tomorrow will be the second day of the conference. And tomorrow I got a lot of interviews. And it's amazing, we've spoken to different guests, and we're seeing how AI is being leveraged to solve different kinds of business problem, societal problem, human problem. That is why they said AI is all in all. It has the capability to do a lot. And, even though it has its own ability to cause harm, and that is why we need to understand, the principle of responsible AI principles, understanding how to use AI in a responsible manner so that we don't become a victim, of the bad side of AI. Yeah. Thank you so much. My name's Stevie Mayhem, the executive producer of AI Spotlight. Talk to you guys soon.